Hi, today's project is super quick and super easy, and you can easily get a quilt top done in one day. This project is an ode to my grandmother. Back in the 70s, her house was filled with Afghans. I never really yet learned how to knit or crochet, so I thought I would make a chevron blanket out of fabric. To make this project, you will need 6 1-yard cuts of fabric. Your fabrics need to be arranged so that they are contrasting in color and labeled from 1 to 6. Each yard of your fabric will be cut the exact same way. They will be cut into 3.5-inch strips the length of your fabric. You should get 10 strips out of each yard of fabric with very little waste. So you'll have 10 strips of each color that are 3.5 wide by approximately 42 inches long. Once you have cut all your strips, you're going to want to arrange them so that you have 2 groups of 5 strips for each color. So you're going to divide each set of 10 strips in half, and you're going to want to number them. So you'll have 2 groups of number 1, 2 groups of number 2, and so on. To get the chevron pattern, we have to match up our strips in a particular order. So to start off, we're going to take 5 of number 1 and 5 of number 2 and match them together. So 5 is a set, so a set of number 1 and a set of number 2 together. We'll take our other set of number 1, so number 1, with number 6, a set of number 6, so 5 strips of number 6. We'll put them together, and then we're going to sew them together the length of the fabric. So you'll do one number 1 to one number 6, and you'll do all 5 of them, matching them up for a set. Then we'll take number 2 and we'll match it up with number 3. So a set of number 2, 5 strips of number 2 with 5 strips of number 3. We'll take 5 strips of number 3 and match it up with 5 strips of number 4, a set of number 4. You'll take a set of number 4, and you'll match it up with a set of number 5. And then you should be left with one set of number 5 and one set of number 6, which will be matched up and sewn together. From here, you're just going to want to get comfortable at the sewing machine and kind of get an assembly line going and just chain stitch all of these together. It'll just be 2 strips right sides together with a 1/4-inch seam. Once you have sewn all your strip sets together, you're going to want to iron the seams. And it really doesn't matter if you iron them open or if you iron them to the dark side. They just need a good ironing so that they lie flat. Next, we're going to cut our strip sets into squares. So if you have an accurate 1/4-inch seam, you should be able to cut these at 6.5 inches, and they should be 6.5 inches tall, 6.5 inches wide, so you'll get a nice square. If for any reason your seam allowances are a little off, you just want to cut these so that they're squares. So for this chevron pattern to come out really nicely and you get the diagonal going across the quilt, you'll need to follow this pattern here, this little layout I have. And it's not very difficult. Once you get the first row in, you'll see how your colors and patterns go together. But you start with a square that is your number 1, 2, and then you're going to match it up with 2, 3. And this is just a fence rail layout for a quilt. But what gives it the nice look is how the colors go together and how they diagonally go across the quilt, so you get a nice movement when you're looking at the quilt. And although I didn't say it in the beginning of the video, you really can do this quilt in any color for any season. It really will work. I think my next one that I do, I'm going to do in like shades of purple. I just think it would be a beautiful quilt. If you've ever done a chevron quilt before, they're normally done with half square triangles. And for a
quilt this size, you would probably make like 100 half square triangles. So they're not difficult. I just thought it would be more time consuming and more trimming to do a chevron quilt made out of half square triangles. So I came up with this easy fence rail quilt, and it's very easy. Normally your half square triangle chevron quilts, the rickrack is going horizontal across your quilt. And for this one, your zigzag rickrack is kind of going diagonally across your quilt. So it's a little bit of a different look, but I think it gives it a lot of movement and a lot of energy, and your eye does really travel across the quilt.
So here you can see I have 1, 2, and then I have 2, 3, and then I have 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, 6. You can see how that comes together. And then when you get to the second row, you can see how number 1 lines up with number 1. Okay, and then you can see number 2 will line up with number 2. And you know, once you get that first row laid out, you can see like how it connects, how your zigzag is going to go across your quilt. So really the first line is kind of the one you're going, oh my God, what is this? And then it all comes together and you can see how everything matches up real nicely. And this quilt, really, you can make it as wide as you want or as long as you want. That's up to you. So when you're laying out this first row, you're going to go 4, 5, 5, 6, and then you go back to 6, 1. If you want your quilt to be square, you just keep going out as far as you want to go. And when you get to row 2, you still have to go back to the 6, 1 block because it lines up with the one above it.
For the quilt that I made in this video, I made it 11 blocks across and 16 blocks down. So I had to come out to 6, 1, and then 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, and I had to keep repeating the pattern across the top. You can make this as wide as you want. You can make it square. You can make 2 baby quilts out of it. You're going to end up with a lot of blocks to work with. The dimensions of the quilt that I made that are 11 blocks across and 16 blocks down, the quilt is approximately 63 inches by 92.5 inches. When I was laying this quilt out, I wanted it to be as long as I could possibly get it because we have very tall people in my family. So when I was laying it out, I was like 1 block short of having a 92-inch long quilt. But I did have extra blocks, and I was able to take 2 blocks apart and sew them back together. So I had like a block 1, 2, and I needed a 1, 6, and then I had a 5, 6. So I could take a couple of the blocks apart and put them back together into the right order that I needed to make this quilt. So from here, all you need to do is just sew your blocks together. I would suggest that you label them somehow so that you keep them in the right order because unsewing, seam ripping is no fun. Please let me know if you've decided to make this quilt and the colors that you have chosen. I really do like my quilt, and it does remind me of my grandmother. Thank you for watching to the end of this video. Please consider subscribing, and commenting. Thank you very much again. Bye-bye.